Welcome to Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news, trends, and hottest topics that focus on advances in cybersecurity and cyber industry economics. Our expert yet down-to-earth hosts make cybersecurity straightforward. They ask the tough questions and make this challenging topic something that everyone can understand. Our candid approach lets guests open up on topics we would all like to see addressed. You can find us on the web at newcyberfrontier.com. That's www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join today's host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
This is Abe Thompson on the new Cyber Frontier, coming to you from the Secure Set Studios here in Colorado Springs. We have the privilege of having as our guest Mr. Umesh Verma. He is the CEO of Blue Lance, also the founder of Cyber Houston and the Houston Cyber Summit. In addition, a very unique and I believe a very excellent distinction, he's the chairman of the American Diabetes Association National Board of Directors. Mr. Verma, it is a delight to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much, Abe. It's a pleasure being here.
Indeed. So you've arrived, had your own company going for about 3 decades now, is that what I understand, at Blue Lance?
Yeah, about 34 years, yeah.
And so kind of talk to us about your start and how you moved into obviously a passion for cyber, because it's, when you've kind of helped unify the community of Houston on the cyber side. Talk a little bit about your journey to where you are now.
Sure. I mean, coming out of college, I was employed at one of the world's largest engineering construction firms, and I was a nerd writing applications and putting Laplace transformations down on an Apple PC, writing it in BASIC. And so I was writing cooling pond algorithms to help make sure that the discharge from our wastewater treatment facilities was actually meeting the EPA standards back then.
Sure.
And then I moved on to a very large oil and gas manufacturer, petroleum company, and I was helping automate the offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow.
So we were taking data on some of the first IBM PC ATs we were using on offshore oil rigs, and we were writing the communications protocol and communicating to our mainframes in New Orleans. And the interesting thing there is that the change requests, whenever we had additional features or functionality that was being requested, was being justified in the number of helicopter trips for mail delivery from, that we were going to be able to cut out from land to offshore oil rigs.
Sure.
So then I got into the whole land marketplace, and I had an opportunity to go out with a good friend of mine who became my partner. And we started writing custom applications for businesses around town and helping them migrate some of their mainframe applications to PC land-based applications. So that's how we really got started. And then, from there, I was a very early pioneer in building an offshore facility in Mumbai. And then we grew that substantially. We exited that business by selling it to Nobel India after we'd built it up. Then we opened up a education institute here, a vocational institute. We were a Novell certified training center, and then we added Microsoft and Cisco training to it. We acquired a couple of other companies, consolidated that, and then we sold that business. Did some consulting and contracting work, so built that, sold that business. Along the way, we built a little bit of technology in the audit and compliance automation space, particularly in specializing in security controls and information access. And so that we kept that piece of the business, and that's really what I have been working on in the last 7 years to try to, as this whole area of information security, data security turned into information security, and then it turned into cyber security.
Right.
So it's kind of been a great journey along the way. I don't like the word serial entrepreneur, but that's who I am,
Well,
and that's my MO. So
seems to be the nature of our
that's a little bit.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit about that aspect of my life.
Excellent.
We'll be with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
Along the way, about 17 years ago, my eldest daughter, she was 11 at that time, was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, which is her body does not create insulin. Type 2 is more of a poor usage of the insulin abilities of the body. The islet cells are not very functional. So that's a marked difference, but the net result is the same. It's all about managing blood sugars and all the problems that come along with it. So what started out as wanting to help her out, because I was very disgusted with the archaic nature of treatment.
Yeah.
At that time, we could put a person on the moon, we can do all these great things, but we cannot measure and help people reduce the burdens of the management of the disease. So what started out 17 years ago became a passion of mine, and it's turned into a lifelong passion where we're trying to help over 30 million people who are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Really, and I'm changing the whole theme to saying, why should we just be surviving? It's about helping these people thrive, not just survive.
Right.
And so the American Diabetes Association has been a great venue for that, and we're served on the local community boards, and then now I'm on the national board serving as the national chair. And I guess the last area is what you alluded to was Cyber Houston. So I founded Cyber Houston. I was serving on the executive committee of the local Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Houston Partnership, and I was asked to lead and start a cybersecurity task force. And so that was the birth of Cyber Houston, and Cyber Houston is a DHS recognized information sharing and analysis organization. And our whole goal is to ensuring that businesses and the citizens of the Greater Houston region are continuously educated and prepared to thrive in the era of cyber attacks. So that kind of brings it all together for you. So it's been a good life.
Fabulous. Well, and it's quite laudable too, and I really want people to take note of the fact that here is a very accomplished businessman, a very accomplished technical man, but also very accomplished as a champion for millions of people that need help. And I think, I'm sure in your years you've run into people that become sort of one-dimensional and are focused solely on their career and that is their job. But I just want to sort of publicly commend you and thank you for what you're doing. My mom too is a diabetes sufferer, and so I know that many throughout the world really will probably benefit from some of the things that you've been invested in. With Blue Lance, you talked about how you've kind of settled towards some automated internal controls and software solutions, but I also know you've made a recent splash with this free cybersecurity hygiene scan. Tell our listeners a little bit about that and why that's made such a ripple.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking. So,
Indeed.
For many years, people sometimes have want to know, what's the biggest cause of problems in the cyber world? And it's a people problem.
Sure.
It's basically a people problem. And it also boils down to very poor cyber hygiene controls. So the security controls around information access, and the delivery of information is an afterthought. it's a lot like personal hygiene, and you have to, why do we get up in the morning and brush our teeth and we shower and we shave and clip our nails and we eat healthy and get 8 hours of sleep or 7 hours of sleep? These are all the things that are suggested. Well, it's all to be able to build resilience, and it is all to be able to make us fight off infections and bacteria and all in a better way. It's not that we're not going to get sick, but what do you do to bounce back?
Sure.
And so it's to ward off as well as to bounce back. So in the same way, there are like at least 25 cybersecurity internal security controls that can identify and give you a quick read on how well your internal controls are being enforced. And if you take care of these 20 or 25 things, and a lot of people say, my God, that's just basic blocking and tackling. And the answer is, you're darn right, it's basic blocking and tackling, but why are you not doing it? And I'll tell you, I'll share with you some very amazing statistics that have come out of this free cyber scan. So the genesis of it was we've been in the bank, we've got, as Blue Lance, our software is, we're a leading developer of assurance audit and compliance automation software, specializing in security controls and information access. And that's our elevator pitch. And by the numbers, our software is installed in about 121 countries. 19 different industries with banking, education, finance, government, and healthcare as concentrations. And we monitor over 2 million corporate user identities a day for all their activities, etc. And what we have learned over the last several years is that there are certain controls that are absolutely important. They're just like brushing your teeth and getting out of the shower and shaving. But those are regularly not enforced, and especially in the businesses that have less than 1,000 employees. And I'm going to read out to you some very startling statistics here that will start painting a picture. So what did we do? We took all of our learnings from all of our other customers, and we brought down these 25 controls, which are really basic blocking and tackling, and we packaged that in that free cyber scan. Yeah. And so we give that and make that available to the general public. And so network administrators or whoever can download the free cyberscan from freecyberscan.com. It's just that simple, freecyberscan.com. And so they download it, and within minutes, they get a whole reading on all the vulnerabilities and policies and settings that are not in best practices.
Sure.
And we have done over 600 scans. And I say done, meaning people have run their own scans. Right. And the data that we're getting back is absolutely amazing. This is data that we've gotten back over the last 14 months with businesses with less than 1,000 employees. I'm going to read some of these out to you. 62% have the default admin account not disabled. Oh. So that's almost huge. So each account, each time you set up a network or you set up your routers, you set up your Wi-Fi, you set up all your firewalls and all, they come with basic out-of-the-factory passwords. You're supposed to change the admin user and change that password. Well, 63% of these organizations allow for users to have less than 4-character passwords. Wow. Now, you couple that with 68% have no account lockout, which means that you can sit there and brute force and the account doesn't get locked out.
Oh, my goodness.
So if I can brute force and I know that people have passwords with less than 4 characters, it's a matter of minutes before I can get in.
Wow.
73% have no monitoring of user or admin access. Now, bear in mind, these are, again, less than 1,000 employees. It's that mid-tier.
Right, but that makes
These
up a
are
big
the people
band.
who are the service providers and the supply chain folks for the major enterprises, which is why third-party risk is so huge. Moving on, 74% have dormant accounts with admin privileges, which means that they have accounts that have never been used or haven't been used in the last several months, and they are sitting there with admin privileges. So we dive in deeper and we say, why is this happening? And we hear that there's a lot of churn in that whole IT administration space. The job market is very tight. So people move. And when a new administrator comes in, he or she doesn't want to have applications stopping on their watch.
Right.
So what do? They just create a new user or a new group with those admin privileges, and they carry on. 82% have privileged accounts that require no password expiration. A lot of this are private owners, third generation businesses. I have a friend of mine who's in the car business, has like 8 franchise locations, 485 employees. He doesn't want his passwords expiring during the day when his salespeople are trying to sell cars.
Sure.
Nobody has sat down there and told him that that's not how it happens. It can be done on a much more responsible way. And here's the big kicker. 91% have not enabled MFA or multi-factor authentication, let alone two-factor authentication. So when you put all this together, it's all been done with IT as being a productivity, ease of use tool, and it hasn't been done with a lens of, or hasn't been installed with a lens of security. And so the IT resources, there's scarce IT resources in these companies. IT is an overhead. They're running around in break-fix mode, being very reactive, not being proactive. And so you're seeing a lot of ransomware attacks, you're seeing a lot of phishing attacks, and that's just exploding.
Indeed. Let's take a quick break and go hear from our sponsor.
Murray Security Services are your cybersecurity experts with decades of experience providing professional training services for our clients in various industries. We offer professional training and certification in areas of cybersecurity, safety, health, and environmental services at our academy. Our in-person and online training provides a collaborative environment where students can interact directly with instructors through live chats or in private classrooms. Visit murraysecurityservices.com for more information.
And we're back from SecureSnet Studios here in Colorado Springs on the new Cyber Frontier. My guest is Mr. Verma. He is the CEO of Blue Lance, but has a multitude of other experiences and quite a story in cybersecurity. And we're just now talking about some of the startling results of your free cyber scans that you're providing to folks out there, in particular these companies that have less than 1,000 employees. You were just saying 91% have no multi-factor authentication. And so what are you doing with this data in terms of challenging these folks out there? Who's your audience with this type of data?
So the audience is really the small and medium-sized businesses, the mid-tier businesses that are of some size and scale and have intellectual property and business to protect. Yeah. They have customer information that is important. They have information that, if their systems get locked out and they get zipped up and they demand ransom, then they're out of business. And, after a ransomware attack, a significant ransomware attack, most businesses don't survive 6 months. Yeah, so there's recover. A huge, so that's one area where we are spending a lot of time in educating people. But along with that comes the fact that these are mid-tier businesses are the supply chain and service provider networks to the large enterprise, especially where you have the accounting firms and the legal firms who have so much sensitive data on their customers. And so they are heavy targets for attacks and compromise. And so it's also the enterprises that are worried about third-party risk, and how do they help and inform and educate and help their service providers and their supply chain networks improve their cybersecurity posture so that they can become better suppliers and producers back to the enterprise, and they are able to manage that third-party risk.
Indeed. Well, and it's probably going to be quite a revolution, I would hope. It's just very similar when the doctor tells us what to eat and we don't do it, and that we get all the basic stuff. And so you would tend to feel like you're a broken record out there, but are people listening? Are people responding and taking the advice of the cyber doctor?
We see a growth in people, and it's just like insurance. People don't buy. So we're from Houston, and we've had several floods and hurricanes lately, and you'll still have people who don't buy flood insurance. However, there have been many that have bought flood insurance.
Good.
So nothing acts as a catalyst for people to make change unless they have an incident. Sure. Or a friend of theirs has an incident.
Right.
So as a result of that, what we have done is, I spoke about Cyber Houston. And so Cyber Houston has been this coalition of multiple industries, a public-private partnership. We have law enforcement there. We have the city and municipal governments there. We have academia there. We have the private companies and the private sector there, healthcare organizations, oil and gas, energy, transportation. So it's a coalition, and I would encourage your listeners to go to cyberhouston.org, because everything we do is for the civic-minded purpose, and it's all voluntary work, and it's all the information and resources provided are free to everybody. Good. And so there's guidance there for the CEOs and board of directors. There's guidance there for the C-suite on how to talk to their executive leadership, and there's a free cyber preparedness assessment that mid-tier companies can take and start a conversation in their own organizations. Good. And so that coalition has also created the Houston Cyber Summit. And so that is an annual summit. It's held in April of every year. It's at the convention center downtown. And we have over 400 business leaders come there and talk. And it's a best practices session. This year it's expanded to a 2-day event. And we're adding a day on digital marketing, believe it or not, because of all the security and privacy aspects around digital marketing and building of brands responsibly and fake accounts. And then there is also the issue, which is on everybody's mind, irrespective of their affiliation. It's the elections that are coming up. And so, how do you, there'll be conversation around how do you identify real accounts, and how do you look for fake accounts, and how do you make sure that what you're saying is authentic, and you're looking at authentic sources and stuff like that.
Excellent.
So we're expanding in that way too, and that platform has been great to bring people, and the large enterprises bring their vendors, bring their suppliers to that event. Right. So that's how we have got it set up. So we're trying to educate our own service providers and our supply chain network. Well, and we see that audience growing. So to answer to your question is, it's growing. The smart businesses are getting smarter.
Good. Well, and we must have community collaboration in order to address the cyber work that's out there, because there's so much to be done, and it's not about excessive emphasis on competition. We've had great success here in Colorado Springs in forming a great community, an ecosystem, as we call it, around cybersecurity. Has your Chamber of Commerce there in Houston been involved as well?
Yeah, actually,
Good.
Our task force, the coalition, was incubated at the Greater Houston Partnership, which
Great.
is this downtown Chamber of Commerce.
Excellent. That's wonderful to see.
And then it grew so fast, and it outstripped their ability to provide subject matter experts, etc.
Sure.
So they said to me, "Hey, Umesh, what do you want to do with it?" I said, "Listen, let me just take it out, and we'll form our own coalition."
Sure.
So yes, they are very involved.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Well, and I was glad to hear law enforcement and all of those other components coming together to get that done. What does Cyber Houston and also even at the summit do in terms of longer term education and preparation to get folks into the industry?
So, one of the things we are very, very proud of is with not only all the content that we're putting out there, and we have world-class leaders. We have over 60 world-class speakers from across the region. And I'm talking about some of the best talent in the world, because these
Sure.
people are running the cybersecurity business of their businesses
Yeah.
across the world. So not only do we have those people speaking from their vantage point and providing excellent advice and guidance, but the other thing we have done is we have worked very closely with all the school districts and the two-year
Good.
colleges and the four-year colleges. So we have Aldine Independent School District, we have Houston Independent School District, we have Lone Star College, we have Houston Community College, we have U of H, the University of Houston, the main campus, as well as the Downtown Masters program. We have the four-year program. We have Houston Baptist University with the cybersecurity engineering program.
Hmm.
So, we have 7 scholarships that we provide at the end of day one,
Wonderful.
and so it's a way of us paying forward, and it's the scholarship and awards program where we recognize excellence. So we ask these institutions to present or put forward their best student. And not only do these students get to come there, but we also include their seniors and their juniors. They get passes for their juniors and their seniors to come to our program,
Perfect.
so that we constantly keep them, so they can hear about what's on the minds of their leadership in companies or academia or government agencies. And so we have that program, we have internship programs. So we're very, very forward looking and trying to get that next generation of cybersecurity leaders educated and interned.
Sure.
So that's one. The other thing is that we're working closely with the state. So
Yeah.
we're working with the Department of Homeland Security on how do we become a role model for disseminating information and information sharing. So we're a DHS recognized, Department of Homeland Security recognized information sharing and analysis organization. So we're
Excellent.
playing a leadership role there. And the ISAL office comes on down to Houston and presents and is part of the summit.
Sure.
Then we have the Texas Department of Information Resources. We have an alignment with them. We present there and they come here, and that's a way for them to get the word out to the other Texas agencies around here.
Sure.
So we're just constantly, we're moving that chain forward. A lot goes on in education and information and
Sure.
information sharing. So that's the proactive stuff. Now, with the tools we have delivered and they're available free, we are being asked, that's great. You tell us all the stuff that we need to be doing. Well, what's next?
Yeah.
And we have some good surprises and some great information that we're going to share at the Houston Cyber Summit in April on what's next and how do you engage with us and our community in order to help you thrive
Certainly.
in this era.
And so we'll have to wait till April to get to go hear those things, but the Houston Cyber Summit coming up in April should be a fun one. So I
Well, why
imagine
don't you come on down to Houston,
Hey,
and
you
I'll
know-
have you as my guest, and maybe you can do a podcast. from here.
much better weather. I'd actually consider that. I'm going to ask Chris, have me sent down there. But prior to that, I'm sure that there are other community cybersecurity leaders that are listening in far and away places here in the United States and elsewhere that want to see their communities become like a Houston, become like a Colorado Springs, where we've had some success here too. What do you say to them? How do you encourage them in beginning to form this coalition and to crystallize their cyber community in their towns?
Yeah, you've got to lead by example,
Good.
and you've got to have the civic leadership background, and you've got to really believe in giving before you receive.
Sure.
And you have to practice being able to give away a lot of information, educate people, make it available. And you don't always start with charging, because if you start with charging, that's a hill to climb.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a barrier to entry. So coming from the software industry, we grew our whole business based on giving away free software. But so long as it was valuable and you could articulate the value proposition, that brings those early adopters in. Yeah. And you got to be targeted about who you want to bring in. So if you go after, and you can do the traditional market research, market penetration, etc., or if you can partner with a city or a county or an educational institution or a major employer in town, it's faster because now they are partnered with you. Sure. And that's that herd mentality or the bell cow mentality that you start. Right. And so people follow. Yeah. People follow leaders. And so get a group of leaders together, get them to put out the materials, give them a venue and a platform to speak from. And you got to understand what drives and motivates those individuals. So for example, enterprises just don't like speaking about their vulnerabilities. However, they have all the experience and expertise needed to help others in the industry. So rather than putting them on a panel, and this is really the secret sauce, and I'm happy to share it because it's so important for our country and our community. So rather than putting them on a panel and asking them to share all their dirty laundry and tell people what are their vulnerabilities, which they're not going to, you put them on a panel and you ask them about the best practices, and you ask them about how their third parties could become better. Yeah. And so now they are providing advice. And, there's a very good friend and mentor of mine said, Umesh, if you ask people for money, they'll probably give you a lot of advice. But if you ask people for advice, you may just get some money.
What a great lesson.
You put them on the thing, and on the podium, and you let them speak from their vantage point of expertise and let them share their knowledge. And all of a sudden, it's important, valuable knowledge. And so that's how you grow a community.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Umesh has shared with us so much wisdom and passion, and I love it. And a couple things I don't want you to forget about. He's got his free cybersecurityscan.com out there as a resource. It's also cyberhouston.org, is that correct?
Yeah.
And then also the upcoming Cyber Houston Summit, or the Houston Cybersecurity Summit coming up in April. Sounds like one of those great places to be for sure. That comes from a man with experience. And then it's just a last reminder to kind of balance out sort of the greatness of this man we've had the privilege of talking with. Don't forget the American Diabetes Association and the work that they're doing to help so many of our family members and friends across the country. Umesh, it's been a delight to have you with us.
Oh, thank you very much, Abe, and I've enjoyed it.
Indeed.
And, good luck to you and your listeners, and come on down to Houston for the summit.
Well, thank you very much. This is Abe Thompson here on the new Cyber Frontier, coming to you from the Secure Set Studios here in Colorado Springs. Good day.
Thank you for listening to New Cyber Frontier. Remember to follow or like our post and circulate each new show to your networks. We keep you informed, bring you the latest news, explore new trends, and find the hottest topics. With New Cyber Frontier, you don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert. Just get plugged in. We encourage you to get involved. Tell us what topics interest you and join our mailing lists. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. That's newcyberfrontier.com. Check out our previous interviews and please let us know if there are any topics that you would like to hear discussed. See you next time on New Cyber Frontier.